The Philippines is preparing to launch its most advanced satellite ever built. Known as the Multispectral Unit for Land Assessment, the 130-kilogram satellite is scheduled for launch aboard a SpaceX mission in 2027 and will support agriculture, disaster response, maritime monitoring, and national security operations. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has already approved plans to expand the program into a larger Philippine-owned satellite constellation. On the surface, this appears to be a story about technological development. In reality, it is a story about sovereignty. For decades, the Philippines has relied heavily on foreign partners and commercial platforms for maritime surveillance and situational awareness in the South China Sea. But as competition with China intensifies, Manila is increasingly reaching a strategic conclusion shared by many middle powers across the Indo-Pacific. A nation that cannot independently observe its own territory cannot fully defend it. The future balance of power in the South China Sea may not be determined solely by warships, fighter aircraft, or coast guards. It may increasingly be determined by who controls the information that flows from space. If there is one lesson that Robert Kaplan has emphasized throughout his work, it is that geography remains the foundation of power. And few countries occupy a more consequential geography than the Philippines. Situated at the intersection of the South China Sea, the Philippine Sea, the Luzon Strait, the Bashi Channel, and the maritime approaches to Taiwan, the Philippines sits astride some of the world's most strategically important waterways. Nearly one-third of global maritime trade passes through the South China Sea, while multiple naval and commercial choke points converge near Philippine territory. This geography has transformed the Philippines from a peripheral Southeast Asian state into one of the central strategic battlegrounds of the 21st century. The importance of this position can be seen in the continuing competition over Scarborough Shoal and the Spratly Islands. Located well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, Scarborough Shoal remains under effective Chinese control and has become a symbol of the broader struggle over sovereignty, maritime rights, and regional order in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, confrontations between Philippine and Chinese vessels continue to highlight the strategic importance of these contested waters. Throughout history, geography has often determined the fate of nations. But in today's Indo-Pacific, geography alone no longer guarantees security. A nation must not only occupy strategic geography, it must also be able to see it. Throughout history, great powers depended on maps. Today, they depend on satellites. The nature of geopolitical competition has changed profoundly in the 21st century. Military power is no longer determined solely by the size of a navy or the range of a missile. Increasingly, it depends on something less visible but equally important: the ability to observe, track, analyze, and respond to events in real time. Modern maritime competition is fundamentally an information contest. Surveillance satellites, maritime tracking systems, radar networks, drones, artificial intelligence, and real-time intelligence sharing have become essential tools of state power. The side that detects an adversary first understands its intentions faster, and distributes that information more effectively gains a significant strategic advantage. This reality has become especially important for the Philippines. For many years, Manila has relied heavily on foreign-provided maritime surveillance systems, including commercial satellite imagery, partner intelligence networks, and platforms such as Sea Vision and other maritime domain awareness tools supported by allies and partners. These systems have significantly enhanced Philippine awareness of activities in the South China Sea, but they also expose an uncomfortable geopolitical reality. A nation that depends entirely on others for information can never possess complete operational independence. This is why information sovereignty is increasingly becoming a prerequisite for strategic sovereignty. For the Philippines, the challenge is no longer simply defending its maritime territory. It is acquiring the ability to independently observe, monitor, and understand what is happening within it. And that is precisely why Manila has decided to build its own eyes in orbit. The Philippines' MULA satellite is not a large satellite by international standards. Weighing approximately 130 kilograms, MULA is scheduled for launch aboard SpaceX's Transporter-20 mission in 2027 and represents the most advanced satellite ever developed under the Philippine space program. Once operational, it will support maritime monitoring, national security, disaster response, agricultural assessment, and Earth observation missions. Yet the importance of MULA lies not in its size or technological sophistication. It lies in its strategic logic. For decades, the Philippines has relied heavily on foreign governments, commercial providers, and partner intelligence networks to monitor its maritime domain. MULA represents Manila's first serious attempt to establish an independent and nationally controlled source of strategic information. Every image captured by a Philippine-owned satellite reduces dependence on foreign intelligence systems. Every independently generated dataset strengthens the country's ability to monitor its territorial waters, track vessel movements, and respond to emerging threats without waiting for external assistance. The satellite's capabilities are significant. According to Philippine Space Agency plans, MULA will be capable of observing up to 73,000 square kilometers within a 24-hour period and collecting data across the country's land, air, and maritime domains. More importantly, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has approved the development of a larger MULA satellite constellation, allowing future satellites to be manufactured and integrated domestically. This reveals that MULA is not simply a satellite project. It is the foundation of a long-term strategy to build sovereign Philippine space capabilities, establish an indigenous space industry, and create a nationally owned Earth observation network capable of supporting the country's strategic requirements for decades to come. And nowhere is independent information more valuable than in the contested waters of the South China Sea. The future struggle for maritime power in the Indo-Pacific may occur long before warships ever exchange fire. Increasingly, it begins with who sees first. The recent confrontation at Scarborough Shoal illustrates this new reality. In June 2026, Philippine authorities released satellite imagery showing the appearance of a mysterious floating structure inside the disputed shoal, complete with personnel and communications equipment. Philippine officials warned that the platform could represent another incremental effort to alter facts on the ground, drawing comparisons to the early stages of China's development of artificial islands such as Mischief Reef. What is striking about this incident is not merely the structure itself. It is how it was discovered. Satellite imagery, maritime surveillance networks, and persistent monitoring systems allowed Manila to identify, publicize, and diplomatically challenge developments at Scarborough Shoal before they could fundamentally alter the strategic situation. In previous decades, such activities might have remained undetected until physical control had already been established. This reflects a broader transformation in maritime competition. Today, whoever first detects ships, aircraft, drones, maritime militia vessels, floating platforms, or Coast Guard deployments gains a decisive operational advantage. Maritime domain awareness has become the first layer of deterrence, before states can deploy ships, impose costs, or defend sovereignty. they must first possess the ability to observe events unfolding in real time. The South China Sea is therefore evolving into a contest not merely of fleets, but of sensors, surveillance networks, and information systems. And in that new strategic environment, satellites are no longer simply scientific instruments. They are instruments of sovereignty. Throughout history, great powers have sought to master the dominant information technologies of their era. Britain relied on superior maps and naval charts. The United States relied on satellite reconnaissance throughout the Cold War. Today, strategic competition increasingly depends on integrated surveillance networks operating across land, sea, air, and space. The Philippines is beginning to embrace this reality. Beyond the MULA satellite, Manila is pursuing sovereign space capabilities through satellite constellations, maritime sensors, radar networks, autonomous systems, and AI-enabled surveillance technologies. The objective is not to become a major space power. It is to ensure that the Philippines can independently observe and defend its own strategic environment. Manila increasingly understands a fundamental geopolitical truth. National sovereignty begins with independent situational awareness. But the Philippines is not alone. The Philippines is not the only country discovering that strategic competition increasingly depends on information dominance. Across the Indo-Pacific, middle powers such as Japan, Australia, India, and South Korea are investing heavily in satellite constellations, surveillance systems, autonomous sensors, and integrated intelligence networks. Commercial satellites, military satellites, and dual-use technologies are becoming essential components of national security strategies. This reflects a larger geopolitical transformation. The new arms race in Asia is occurring not only in the seas below, but also in the space above. The countries that control information, surveillance, and situational awareness will increasingly shape the future balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. And this transformation is fundamentally changing the nature of deterrence itself. Realist thinkers have long understood that great powers dislike uncertainty, but they also understand how to exploit it. Much of China's strategy in the South China Sea relies on ambiguity, gradual escalation, and gray zone operations. Whether through maritime militia vessels, Coast Guard deployments, floating structures at Scarborough Shoal, or incremental changes to disputed features, Beijing often seeks to alter strategic realities without crossing the threshold of open conflict. This is where information becomes a form of deterrence. Better surveillance does not necessarily allow the Philippines to defeat China militarily, but it does allow Manila to detect activities earlier, attribute responsibility more quickly, expose developments internationally, and respond before strategic facts become irreversible. The objective, therefore, is not simply military superiority. It is early warning, attribution, exposure, and ultimately deterrence. And this reveals the larger geopolitical significance of a satellite weighing only 130 kilograms. Historians often assume that military power begins with armies and navies. Increasingly, it begins with satellites. The MULA program reflects 5 major transformations taking place across the Indo-Pacific. The militarization of information, the rise of sovereign surveillance, the emergence of middle power space competition, the evolution of deterrence, and the transformation of the South China Sea into an information battlefield. The satellite itself is small, but the geopolitical reality it represents is enormous. Because in the 21st century, Sovereignty is no longer determined solely by who controls the sea. It is increasingly determined by who sees it first.